What's up, fellas? Coming at you guys today with another installment in my TALHM Bout video series. The last TALHM Bout we did was on the classics of black metal, and I'm gonna continue this. There's gonna be 3 volumes for these genres: black metal, death metal, doom and sludge, electronic, and punk. So volume 1s are gonna be classics and entry level shit. Volume 2s are gonna be like underrated and like old school gems and shit like that. And then volume 3 is gonna be like indie obscure shit. Excuse me. But yeah, we got Death Metal Volume 1. Gonna talk about some entry level shit, stuff that personally got me into death metal. But yeah, let's get cracking. Now, when it comes to the inception of death metal, a lot of people argue, was it Possessed Seven Churches or Death Scream Bloody Gore? And I'm gonna have to go with my boy Chuck over here. Yeah, my reasoning for this being the first death metal album is because Death really set up the aesthetic and like vibe for death metal. And they introduced, like, there were still like blast beats existed back like before that, but they really like, I forgot who drummed on this one, but they really used that blast beat well, and Chuck's growled vocals and shit like that, just amazing stuff. Now we're going to talk about another early death metal album, and if you're not familiar with this band, this might be a little bit of a curveball, but I am talking about Darkthrone's Soulside Journey. This was Darkthrone's first album. This predates Norwegian black metal. Like, Darkthrone were one of the pioneers and most important figures in Norwegian black metal, but they fucking started out as death metal, and this CD is amazing. But yeah, it was after this album. I can't remember which album came after this, but yeah, Darkthrone, death metal, all that good shit. Now we're gonna talk about another band that's not always connected to death metal, and I'm talking about Napalm Death with Harmony Corruption. I'd say this is their straight up death metal album. I mean, Napalm Death, they're known as the pioneers of grindcore with Scum and everything. But they made some decent, death metal albums too. And I could get in a whole argument as to like, oh, what makes a grindcore? What makes a death metal? Maybe I can make some kind of topic video about that in the future, but for now, Napalm Death is also a death metal band. No more CDs, because CDs are lame, but let's get into the good stuff. One of my favorite death metal bands, and I mean, this album or another one is tied for my favorite death metal album, but I'm talking about good old Suffocation, Effigy of the Forgotten. Yeah, this is really brutal. A lot of people like to say that Suffocation helped create deathcore, and I can kind of see that, not on this album though. I mean, this album is fucking balls to the wall, just amazing shit. I think this comes on a cool color. Ooh, yeah. Got a little orange right there. But yeah, Suffocation are amazing live, too. I've seen them twice now. But, and the other album I was talking about, I'm gonna save for Volume 2. But the second, death metal album that's tied for my favorite is Mortician's Chainsaw Dismemberment. But anyway, let's get going. Up next, we got my favorite Morbid Angel album, Blessed Are the Sick. This is actually an OG pressing from Earache. But yeah, I mean, Altars of Madness, I own that on vinyl too, a repressing. I didn't want to show like every single album. I'm just doing like one album each from all these bands. But yeah, Morbid Angel. Really crushing, really blasphemous, just great. You know, satanic. Dave Vincent and the boys. Like Dave's era is like the only Morbid Angel era I like. Like I don't like the fuckhead who's the vocalist now. But yeah, I was really disappointed because last year with Suffocation, was going to see Morbid Angel, and I went there. Except, come to find out that fuckhead, who's the vocals now, didn't do any Vincent era Morbid Angel songs. So yeah, I felt kind of pissed off about that. I wanted to hear Chapel of Ghouls, goddammit, but oh well. Dave's making country now, so maybe Morbid Angel has no hope. Okay, next up we got Dying Fetus with Grotesque Impalement. This was one of their earlier albums when they still had this fucking sick ass logo. They brought the logo back for Wrong One to Fuck With, but I don't know. I didn't like the Impact font band logo there. But yeah, this is a little EP. It has some covers on it. The song specifically, Bringing Back the Glory. I forgot what band it's covered from, but that riff is just ridiculous. It's so cool. But yeah, Dying Fetus, good American death metal, you know, all that jazz and shit. Now up next, we got the one and only Deicide with their self-titled. Growing up, Deicide were for sure one of my favorite death metal bands. Nowadays, I don't really listen to them like I used to. Like, I'd still spin this one, but I haven't even listened to their new album yet. I probably should. But yeah, a lot of people, like, disown Deicide just because of Glenn Benton, but I don't know. I can usually separate the art from the artist, but I'm not going to get into that argument either today. But yeah, Deicide. What do we got next? Okay, this isn't an old school death metal album, but I think for how big and how influential it was, I still needed to add it. And I'm talking about Cattle Decapitation with Monolith of Inhumanity. I knew that. Yeah, I mean, good old death grind. I've seen Cattle live with Brujeria. Brujeria, I'll talk about in Volume 2. Ooh, look at that, like fucking vomit splatter. But yeah, Cattle Decapitation. Yeah, they're a newer band. Not newer, I guess like newer compared to these other bands I've been showing. But yeah, just really good, like ear-shattering, skull-splitting, just death metal goodness. What do we got next? Aha! Up next, we got Carcass with Reek of Putrefaction. Now, technically, this is I wouldn't call it grindcore. I'd say it's more death grind. Kind of like, I mean, Cattle Decapitation, their first album, Human Jerky, they were basically doing their best Carcass impersonations. But yeah, a lot of people wouldn't consider this like a classic among Carcass's albums, but I only own two Carcass albums. This and Surgical Steel, I don't like Surgical Steel is amazing and everything, but I'm like with this video I'm more talking about influence. But this album was still pretty influential, like what I just mentioned, to Cattle Decapitation and all these other gore grind bands. I mean, Carcass were one of the first, like, metal bands to use, like, actual gore. Like, this is like a collage of snippets from, like, anatomy college textbooks. But yeah, Carcass with Reek of Putrefaction. We got one more, alright? One more, I promise. And I'm talking about Autopsy with Severed Survival. Now, with Autopsy, they are really credited with creating the Death Doom sound. Because pretty much all these previous death metal albums were like really fast blast beats and really aggressive. I mean, Autopsy is still aggressive, but they have a slower approach to it, a more crushing and heavy sound. When I first got into death metal, I didn't really like Autopsy that much because I just wanted the beat your face in kind of death metal. But when I started getting into Funeral Doom and Death Doom, then I kind of warmed up to this, and now it's one of my favorite death metal albums. But yeah, that's it for volume 1 of death metal. Next genre I'm gonna do with the TALHM bout is Doom Stoner Sludge. So look out for that. Coming down the pipe, I still have some reviews planned. More vinyl videos, maybe a topic video. I don't know, whatever, whatever I feel like doing. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and